Welcome to a SimHERA tutorial on gameplay. Today I'm going to show you how to play in SimHERA and have some fun. So let's get into it. Right now when you load up SimHERA, it starts in training mode. Just go up here and go to game mode and it'll load in a new case. Just give it a second to load up here. So we have a new case now, and go over here to gameplay, and what you'll see is your professional profile here. Tester name, your position, level, experience points. Now, when you're in gameplay, these experience points are going to increase, rank up. There are only positive experience points in this game. You can change your avatar if you like, and this shows what you're ranked up in your leaderboard. This is global, so please, when you are putting in your tester name, do not put identifiable information. There's a little disclosure there, because this is seen by everyone who has SimHERA. There are 4 different clinics that you can play in and rank up. So adult behavioral clinic, pediatric behavioral clinic, adult auditory evoked potential clinic, and pediatric auditory evoked potential clinic. And the cases that are pending in your profile will show up here on each of the different clinics. And then when you finalize, you score them, and I'll show you that in a moment. They will come down here as cases completed. So all of the cases that you do and all the testing you do will lead to you gaining more experience, as well as within that clinic, it will rank up that clinic. If you just work in the adult behavioral clinic, you're really only going to be ranking up that clinic. So it gives you an opportunity to try out different skills in the different clinics. Okay, so we currently have this one case. I'm just going to start off with an adult behavioral clinic case. So I'm just going to go here. Now you can gain greater experience points by choosing a random case. Currently, we're ranked at level 1 here for this clinic, or I am, and the only available case I have is typical. You could click on the typical button and that will simulate the typical hearing individual, or I can gain twice as many experience points as I hit the random here. So I recommend you do that, and then it'll create a new case here. Now all these cases have unique IDs, so they will be stored as a unique ID, and you can go ahead and save those for calling them in later. But let's just go through and do a couple quick tests of this, and then we'll move on to showing how we can save and score the report. So first thing to do is go check out what the history is of this patient. So we have a patient that was referred to medical doctor, expressed concerns of hearing following a motor vehicle accident. The case is under medical legal review. So that's a pretty good hint that we are going to be doing a medical legal assessment on this individual. Protocols for SimHERA, the default ones for doing a medical legal case, are going to be tympanometry, acoustic reflexes, behavioral, and then cortical auditory evoked potentials. I won't go through all of those, but I'll do a few to show you about how to do TIMPs, acoustic reflexes, and some behavioral testing. And then you can get the idea and then go through the entire assessment yourself. First thing to do is to go into doing some tympanometry. You can get to that through the patient setup here. And we've got this patient. Click on TIMPs. And you would have heard a beep there saying, yes, that was the right condition. And a couple other beeps saying we did tympanometry in the right. And then we're going to move to the left. And audible sound saying that, yep, we're doing the right thing so far. Okay, so the next thing to do is to do acoustic reflexes. And what you can see here is you'll note that my experience points are going to rank up every time you hear that correct beep beep. Okay, so let's we start off with left ear in SimHERA. It's always left ear starting off. Just a thing I decided to do unless the case warrants otherwise. So we'll start off left ear, acoustic reflex, correct measure. Just give it a time to put in the inserts and the probe here. And I'm going to show you that in 3D version. And you hear the double beep there that's saying, okay, yep, it was the right intensity, right starting intensity, and the right frequency. We'll go 5 dB up. Still not seeing a reflex. Oh, and there we've got one at 95. So we type in this chart 95. And we can move on and do the 1000, 2000, 4000 hertz in the protocol, and then do our right contra, because that maintains the same setup, and then uh, right IPSI, left contra, and if the protocol warrants it, we could do a decay if we're thinking this is some type of retrocochlear pathology. But for the sake of this video, I'm trying to keep it brief here. We are not going to do all the possible tests to score all of our points and experience points. So I'm going to move on to behavioral, because that would be the next measure that we need to do, the next test type. And I can show you how to do some quick behavioral assessments using ASH's guidelines that the gameplay follows. So click over here to behavioral. We see our nice patient in the booth there, ready to go. And we're going to put on some TDH headphones. And I'm going to start the session. Okay. And we can select the stimulus type as tone. If you like to play back the stimuli, we can. I'm going to leave that off for right now. And we have the right channel here for presenting stimuli to the right ear and to the left. And to initiate the stimulus to make sure that everything's working fine, just go ahead and change one of the parameters, either the intensity or the frequency here. And you can see the little dot moved over to the left ear here. And I'm just going to go down because I'm unsure. Starting intensities for ASH guidelines is an ascending approach. So I'm going to start at minus 15, and then we're going to go up 5 dB until the patient raises their hand. And so no response, and you're hearing the beep beep, and that is telling me, yep, I'm doing the right thing here. And please note, it says updating stimuli. Don't hit the button until that updating stimulus has been uh, gone. Okay, so they raised their hand there. So I'm just going to hit store that. We're not finished yet because we need to go 10 dB down and then 5 dB up if no response. Oh, and we get a clear response. So now I'm going to store that. The protocol for the gameplay is 2 out of 3 responses at that intensity. So we're done with that frequency, and then we move on to the next frequency. So 2000 hertz. And I'm actually going to do something in error in a moment, just to show you what the error would be, sound would be. Okay. So you heard that. That was because I was starting at an intensity that was probably too low or very close to threshold. You should be minus 10 dB, so lower than what you expect it to be. Okay. So I can continue on here though. And yes, they raised their hand, so it's likely that I wasn't at a low enough intensity as a starting intensity. But I got that 10 dB down, 5 dB up, and confirmed 2 out of 3 there, so that's nicely stored. And you can start seeing my, I'm ranking up here. My experience points are ranking up, and I'm going to hopefully soon get to student level 2. Okay, so that's how we can do behavioral assessment. I'm going to show you how you can rank up here. Now, that was an error because I've been pressing too consistently. And there we go. We've got ranking up. Congratulations, you've leveled up. I'm now student level 2. Awesome. This has many different levels of your positions and up to 10 levels for each position. So have fun figuring out and ranking yourself up. and getting to higher positions in your career. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here just to show you now what we can do for saying, oh, I think I'm done and I want to save this case, and I can show you where that's going to be updated. So you can go to gameplay here. We currently don't have any cases pending, or let's say if I want to say the patient's done, I'm done for today, and I want to call them back for another scheduled appointment, we can do that. We hit save game case and save case report for later viewing. Yes, let's save that case report. Please make sure you don't move SimHERA. It's actually printing the case report right now, and that movement or changing of the what you see on the screen will end up being in that case report PDF. Okay, and it will take you back to the gameplay. So now that it's saved and done, we can move on to the clinic that it was in. So this case was in the medical legal, so auditory voc potential case, and you can see there is the cases pending, and we have case history here with the appointments. And if you want, you can click on this and it will pop up and it will show you the PDF for that case. And there it is. There's that case and what we did in the case report. So we just did 2 thresholds and the tympanometry here. Okay, so I can go ahead and close that. And let's say I wanted to do another case. I'm just going to go random case here. It will save that current case, so make note that if you have been doing any changes, it will save that current case and then it will create a new one. So now we have a new case. Here's the case ID. And then we can go ahead and do some testing on this individual and then save it. But what I'm wanting to demonstrate right now is how you could load up that previous case that we just did, this one here, and do another assessment. So have another appointment on with them. So we just click on that, highlight that when you are in this clinic and click load case. And it will automatically load up that case for you. And there we go. We're back to that case 153. But what you'll note here is that it's appointment number 2. So it actually tracks the number of appointments. In gameplay, you can get maybe 2 or maximum 3 appointments scheduled for these individuals. So after the 3rd appointment, they might be like, I'm done. I don't want to come back in anymore. And you're left with what you were able to test, and that's it. So make note that there are upper limits to the number of appointments that you can call back the patient for. Okay, so then we could go back and we could continue our behavioral assessment where we left off, and it will do that tracking of where we left off. So if I made the mistake here of going back down to here in intensity, oh, gotta set up the patient. Don't forget to do that again. It's a new assessment, new appointment. Okay. That error sound was because we'd already been testing for 3000 hertz. So you will get some error of the next conditions that are being done. So I highly recommend that you just go through all the testing of one test to score accurately for all of your experience points. Okay, so that's how we can save and load a case. Let's say that, yep, we're actually done. I'm going to say, okay, they got 2 responses there out of 3. That's their threshold. Then we're done with this case. We want to finalize it and we want to review it. So to do that, we go to here to score report. So that's going to automatically score the report, and it's going to score the thresholds that you set here in the behavioral audiogram. It will also score the evoked response results for the peak latencies and the auditory evoked potential thresholds, but we didn't do that. And also the acoustic reflexes, we only did 1 here. So we're going to be hearing a lot of beeps and boops, which are saying errors because we haven't really completed this case. But for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to go and set the score, final scoring of case. You can only do this once, note, and you will not be able to conduct further testing. So we won't be able to load this case in. Once it's done, but you can review it. So I'm going to hit finalize score. And those are all the corrects that I did and a lot of errors. Okay, so now that we've scored the report, the case review is on, we can go and see how well I did when I was doing this testing. So go to the test scores here and I can see tympanometry. Yep, I can click on each one of these. It says what the stimulus information was and what type of correct things I did. So next condition, correct, and the temp frequency was correct. And here again for the left ear. This is designating left ear 226 hertz probe. And if we go to acoustic reflexes, left ear IPSI 500 hertz, and I went through, started at 70. If you click this restore button, it will restore it so you can see the intensity by the trial number. So first trial was at 70, 75, 80, and so forth. And the actual threshold the actual acoustic reflex threshold is shown by the pink circle here, and I also designated that as being 95. The true threshold is AR threshold of 92, so pretty good, pretty close. And I was doing this correct step sizes of 5 dB. Now checking out the behavioral one is that, let me just click on restore here, is the left ear AC 1000 hertz. Yep, I started at a pretty good intensity. I had a whole bunch of corrects. It's stimulus onset asynchrony. The transducer setup was correct. The step size was correct, and the stimulus duration was correct for all of these. And I reached my 2 out of 3 threshold. So I designated that as the threshold there, and that's consistent with what is true. For the true thresholds, it has all the stimulus information over here. But what you'll note is that this one here, the starting decibel was too low. So I made an error, or wasn't low enough. I made an error, so it gave me an error indication that the start dB was not correct, but everything else was correct here. So given what I did test, it shows all the correct scores over here on the left. So next condition, starting dB, step size dB, stimulus duration, how long did I press the button down for? If I did it for too quickly, it would come up with an error. And then the stimulus onset asynchrony. And down below it shows the errors. This helps you identify what things you need to improve on. So obviously I've made one mistake, but if I was keeping on making this same mistake, I would be like, okay, I've got to be aware of what I'm doing and changing the way that I practice behavioral audiometry here. Down below it shows the correct tested, the errors that I made, and the total. The tested percentage, I was 90% accurate at the things I did test, but there were a lot of tests that I didn't do, so I was only 9% effective at doing this behavioral assessment. Now this is for the behavioral, and if you select the acoustic reflex, you can see I only did one acoustic reflex, so I was 100% accurate for testing that one, but I was only 10% for the overall testing of acoustic reflexes. The total score for the case is shown here on the left, where you have correct tested, errors tested, and the overall testings that should be done. And you can see I didn't perform very well on that, but I did perform on the ones that I actually did test. So this is a good way to track yourself and see how well you're doing when you're playing in the game. You can also go over here and see the protocol. And so you can learn from what protocol you were doing. So click on tympanometry here. You can see, yes, I did the left and the right. Acoustic reflexes, oh, I missed a lot. Okay, I've got to be mindful of doing that the next time I get a case like this. And then again, the behavioral testing in order. So check out the video on how to set protocols, and that will give you an indication of what these things mean. And we can quickly go back to the game mode, and I can review this case and I can review the report where I left off. But I can't call this patient back in. If I did click load, it says cannot load new patient, no pending cases in the clinic. Click below, do a random case for a new case. So that is how you play in SimHERA. You can have fun with it. You can, like I said, rank yourself up, and you can get achievement awards for doing things like tympanometry. You'll get little achievement badges. So another fun way to do some learning and by playing a game and getting some awards here. And don't forget to check yourself up on the leaderboard, and I can update my rankings here because my experience points were at 24, and now they're at 456. And you can see that there is now another player who's just come on and started playing here. So this leaderboard will get larger because I just rolled out the new version 4.0 with a game mode. Try to stay on top of the leaderboard, and if you do notice me, you can already figure out who I am. Try to knock me off that leaderboard. I'll have fun playing as much as everyone else does. I hope you enjoyed this video on gameplay in SimHERA, and have fun learning, and I'll see you next time.